You are not just eating an egg. You are sending a direct signal into your bloodstream, and your body will respond in ways you do not expect. Part 1. An egg is not food. It is a biological signal. If you see an egg as just a simple food, you are missing the entire story unfolding inside your body. Your body does not understand boiled egg or fried egg. It only understands biological signals, and every component in an egg is activating a different system. The protein in eggs does not just keep you full longer. It enters your bloodstream, triggers tissue repair, and helps maintain muscle mass. And this matters more than you think. Because muscle is the largest consumer of glucose in the body. When you preserve muscle, you are indirectly controlling blood sugar more effectively without extra effort. But that is only the first layer. The yolk carries cholesterol and phospholipids. These substances do not simply pass through the body. They go directly to the liver, the organ that regulates the entire lipid system in your blood. The liver then has to decide, retain it, produce more, or reduce its own cholesterol production. And this is where things become interesting. Your body does not respond rigidly. It adjusts, it adapts, and sometimes it reacts in ways you do not expect. At the same time, eggs provide choline, a critically important compound for transporting fat out of the liver. Without enough choline, fat can accumulate in the liver without you realizing it. That means the same egg in one body can support fat metabolism, but in another body, it can simply add load to a system that is already overwhelmed. That is why in science, researchers do not look at a single marker. They look at a system called metabolic markers. These markers are like the dashboard of a car. Blood sugar tells you how much fuel is present. Insulin tells you how hard the system is working to control it. Cholesterol and triglycerides tell you how fat is being transported. No single number tells the whole story. But when you look at the pattern, you begin to see the direction your body is moving. And this is the point most people never realize. When you eat one egg every day, you are not simply eating healthy or eating dangerously. You are changing the pattern of your entire system little by little every day. It could move in a better direction, or it could move in a worse direction. And what determines that is not the egg. It is the state your body is in when you eat it. So why do some people eat eggs every day and see better lab results, while others see their cholesterol spike? The next part will make you rethink everything you believed about eggs. Part 2. Cholesterol. The truth is not in the egg, but in how your body responds. You have been taught a very simple formula. Eat cholesterol, blood cholesterol, rises heart disease, risk increases. It sounds logical, but your body does not operate in such a linear way. Your liver is the real cholesterol factory. Every day, it produces most of the cholesterol your body needs. When you consume more from food, the liver does not stay passive. It adjusts. It reduces its own production to maintain balance. So, for many people, when they eat eggs every day, what happens is not a dangerous spike, but a subtle restructuring of the lipid system. Studies from the American Heart Association show a very interesting pattern. HDL, often considered the protective cholesterol, tends to increase. LDL, the one people fear, does not simply go up or down. It changes in quality. LDL is not a uniform block. There are small, dense particles, more likely to damage blood vessels, and there are larger particles, which are less harmful. In many people, eating eggs shifts LDL toward the second type. This is a detail almost no one tells you, but it does not stop there. There is a group of people whose bodies do not respond in this gentle way. In science, they are called hyperresponders. In this group, increasing dietary cholesterol can lead to a noticeable rise in LDL. Not because eggs are toxic, but because their regulatory system is more sensitive to input. The problem is you cannot look in the mirror and know which group you belong to. You can eat eggs every morning, feel completely normal, while inside, your markers are shifting in a direction you do not notice. This is where most debates about eggs go wrong. Person A says, "I eat eggs every day, and I'm perfectly healthy." Person B says, "Eggs made my cholesterol go up." Both are right, because they are not talking about the same body. But there is a factor even more important than the egg itself. That is the context in which it appears. If eggs are part of a diet high in refined sugar, reused oils, and processed foods, your liver is not just handling cholesterol. It is dealing with an overloaded system. In that context, any source of fat, even from eggs, can become the last drop. On the other hand, if eggs replace meals high in refined carbs and sugar, they can stabilize your lipid system. Not because eggs heal, but because you have changed the entire input signal. So if eggs are not the problem, what actually determines whether your cholesterol rises or not? The answer lies in something most people never pay attention to: insulin response, and how your body handles glucose after each meal. Part 3. Insulin and blood sugar. Eggs do not make you fat, but how you eat can. If you want to understand what is really happening in your body after each meal, do not look at calories. Look at insulin. Insulin is not just the hormone that handles sugar. It is the signal that decides burn energy or store energy. And this is where eggs become different. Eggs contain almost no carbohydrates. That means when you eat eggs, you do not create a sudden spike in blood sugar, no large glucose wave. And therefore, your body does not need to release a high amount of insulin to control it. This directly relates to how your body responds after a meal, known as glycemic response. A breakfast high in refined carbohydrates, like white bread or sugary cereal, creates a very familiar curve. Blood sugar rises quickly, insulin spikes, energy crashes, you feel hungry again within a few hours. But when you replace it with eggs, what happens is completely different. Blood sugar is more stable. Insulin is lower. And most importantly, you are not pulled into the eat, crash, crave cycle. But this is where many people misunderstand. They think, so eating eggs will improve my metabolism. No, eggs do not fix your system. They simply do not make it worse in the right context. If you eat eggs in the morning, but spend the rest of the day consuming sugary drinks, ultra-processed foods, sleeping poorly, and barely moving, then that stabilizing effect is almost erased. On the other hand, if eggs replace a meal that would normally cause a high insulin spike, you are changing the entire hormonal pattern of your day. This is the difference between a single action and a repeated signal long enough for the body to adapt. Your body does not respond to individual meals. It responds to patterns repeated every day. Imagine two people. The first eats eggs in the morning. but continues a high sugar, high insulin pattern for the rest of the day. The second also eats eggs, but also reduces refined carbs and increases movement. Same egg. But in the second person, average daily insulin is lower. The body has more opportunities to switch into fat-burning mode instead of storage. This is why some people say, I eat eggs and lose weight, while others say, I eat eggs and nothing changes. Not because the eggs are different, but because the system they enter is different. But even if you manage your blood sugar and insulin, there is still another factor, quieter, more dangerous, and almost without symptoms: inflammation and oxidative stress. And this is where everything begins to split into two completely different directions. Part 4. Inflammation and oxidative stress, the silent force that decides everything. You can control blood sugar. You can keep insulin stable. But if there is something quietly damaging the system from within, then all those good numbers may only be on the surface. That thing is chronic, low-grade inflammation. In science, it is tracked through markers such as C-reactive protein and oxidative stress. This is not the kind of inflammation you can feel, like pain or swelling. It happens slowly, silently, day by day, and accumulates. And here is the question many people misunderstand. Do eggs cause inflammation? The honest answer is, the egg itself is not what determines that. In many studies, when eggs are included in a clean diet rich in vegetables and low in processed foods, inflammatory markers do not change significantly. In fact, antioxidants in the yolk, such as lutein and zeaxanthin, can support the body's cellular defense system. But look at the real-world picture. Eggs are rarely eaten alone. They are often paired with sausage, bacon, white bread, repeatedly heated oils, a combo that the body must process, not just as energy, but as an inflammatory load. In that context, the egg is no longer neutral. It becomes part of a system pushing the body in a negative direction. This is the key point. Almost no one explains clearly. Food does not inherently cause inflammation. It amplifies the environment you are living in. If you sleep poorly, are highly stressed, move little, and eat a lot of processed food, your body is already in a baseline inflammatory state. In that case, any additional energy input, even from eggs, can push the system further into overload. On the other hand, in a well-recovered body, adequate sleep, consistent movement, and whole food nutrition, eggs can enter that system without creating problems. And this is where things go even deeper. It is not just what you eat. It is how your body processes it after you eat. Two people can eat the same meal, the same amount of eggs, but experience completely different levels of inflammation and oxidative stress afterward. Not because of the food, but because their internal systems were already different. So what actually creates that difference? Why can the same egg produce completely different biological outcomes in different bodies? The answer lies in something you cannot see: your genes and your internal microbiome. Part 5. Genes and the microbiome, the real reason one egg leads to two different outcomes. At this point, you may begin to realize something. It is not the egg that changes. It is your body that receives signals from the egg in completely different ways. And the deepest layer of that difference lies in two things: your genes and your internal microbiome. First, genes. Your body is programmed to handle fat and cholesterol in its own unique way. Some people have very flexible regulation. When they consume more cholesterol, the body automatically reduces internal production to maintain balance, but for others, this mechanism is less efficient. When intake increases, total blood cholesterol rises as well. This is not a disease. It is simply how your body is designed, and that is why two people can eat the same foods, yet their lab results move in completely opposite directions. But genes are only part of the story. The other part, often overlooked, is the gut microbiome. Inside you are trillions of bacteria. They do not just digest food. They transform it into chemical signals before it enters your bloodstream. This is especially important for a compound in eggs, choline. When you eat eggs, choline does not go directly into your blood. It is first processed by gut bacteria, and in some people, this process produces a compound called TMAO. TMAO has been linked in many studies to higher cardiovascular risk, not in everyone, but in those whose microbiome is inclined in that direction. This means you are not just eating eggs. You are feeding your microbiome, and that microbiome partly determines the final outcome. Think of it this way. Two people eat the same food, but inside them are two completely different processing systems. One produces neutral or beneficial signals. The other produces signals that increase risk, not because of the food, but because of the system behind the food. And this is the point most nutritional advice ignores. They tell you what to eat, but they do not tell you what your body will do with what you eat. When you understand this, all debates about whether eggs are good or bad start to become meaningless. Because the real question is not, are eggs good? But how is your body processing eggs? So, if there is no universal answer for everyone, how do you know whether eggs are helping you or silently harming you? The answer is not on the internet. It is in your own body's data. Part 6. Conclusion: eggs are not the problem. Your system is. At this point, you can see something clearly. Eggs have never been the villain or the savior. They are simply an amplifier. If your system is stable, eggs can become a supportive part of it. If your system is disrupted, eggs can make the issue surface faster. And that is exactly why modern science no longer asks, what is good to eat? Instead, it asks, when you eat this, in this body, what response does it create? Most people look for answers outside. They read headlines, follow advice, and apply it directly to themselves. But your body does not read headlines. It only responds to data. And where is that data? In your blood? If you truly want to know whether eggs are right for you, there is only one way. Not guessing, not believing, but testing. Look at real markers: blood glucose, insulin, triglycerides, LDL, HDL. Eat consistently in one way for a few weeks. Then test again. If your markers stay stable or improve, your body is accepting that signal. If they worsen, that is not an opinion. That is biological feedback. This is how people who truly understand their bodies operate. They are not trapped in debates. They read signals. And there is one truth you need to remember. No single food is powerful enough to destroy you in one meal. But no single food is powerful enough to save you if your system is misaligned. Health is not about one isolated choice. It is about the pattern. You repeat every day. How are you eating eggs every day? And have you ever actually checked how your body responds? Comment below how you eat eggs. I will help analyze it from a metabolic perspective. And if you want to understand your body, instead of just following general advice, follow the channel. Because what you eat every day is quietly rewriting your entire internal system